Hi there, I'm Kathleen Jasper, and today we are talking about goals. Now, don't worry, this is not a new year, new you video. We've seen enough of that already, and it's barely the new year. But I thought I would share with you some ways in which you can construct SMART goals so that you can incrementally attain larger goals over time. I'm going to share some of my own goals that I've come up with for myself for the first quarter of this year. I'm going to show you ways in which you can use SMART goals in your classroom. I also have a business example. So if you're a business owner and you're looking to use SMART goals in your business, you'll have that. And I'm going to show you some data I used in order to make these goals. So let's get started. So I'm sure you've heard the term SMART goal, but I just want to go over what a SMART goal is and what the acronym stands for. SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. Those 5 things inside of a goal make it a better goal than just some general, oh, I'm going to lose 40 pounds this year, or, oh, I'm going to help my students do better on their exams, or, oh, I'm going to make more money this year. While those types of goals are okay to have, with a SMART goal, it's more specific and you have all these little measures along the way to make sure you're incrementally meeting those goals. So I'm going to go over a couple of things that I have done for myself this year in terms of SMART goals. I have a SMART goal specifically I want to go over with you, and then I'm going to show you a few ways in which you can use them in your life. So let's hop on over to my presentation here, and you can see again, a SMART goal is something that is specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, and time-based. You got to put a time stamp on there. Otherwise, the goal's dangling out there and it's one of those things you wish you had done, but you didn't do, and all of that. Now, let's break this down a little bit. So I'm going to show you a SMART goal that I made for myself for the first part of the first quarter of this year. So my specific part of my SMART goal is I will launch a Kathleen Jasper Premier program, How to Start Your Own Tutoring Company. And I'm going to tell you in a minute how I came up with that goal. Measurable, I will have an enrollment of at least 8 people. So obviously with 8 people, I can measure that, right? I just have to count how many people enroll in it. Attainable, can I do this? Well, I have a large enough email list and a presence on YouTube and Facebook that this is attainable. So yes, this goal should be attainable with 8 people. Relevant. Now, this is where the data-driven decision-making comes in. After collecting survey data, this was the #1 thing people wanted more information on. So I didn't just come up with this goal willy-nilly. I actually looked at data in order to make that happen. And then time-based, I will do this by February 28th, 2022. So I have this goal for myself. I want to start launching some more premier programs. And this one jumped out at me after data collection. And I have a timestamp that I want to do this by the end of February. And having that timestamp is really important for me because when I have deadlines, I like to meet deadlines. And so that will help me attain this goal. Now let's look at why I came up with this goal to begin with. So many of you, if you're part of my newsletter, if you're not, there's a link in the description below to join. But if you're part of the newsletter, or if you saw a previous video about taking a break and kind of going through the holidays without filming, you saw that I was putting out a survey to see what people wanted more information on. And as you can see here, how to start your own side hustle or your own company got 54.8% of the vote. Now, so did how to create study guides for the classroom. So I am going to have a program for that as well. But this how to start your own side hustle or your own company stood out to me. And if you look at my sample size here, I have over 402 responses. So that's a significant enough sample size that if more than half of the people who responded wanted more information on this, then I know that it's relevant. This goal that I have is relevant. Now, just to give you an example, I was really going to be focusing on how to publish on Amazon. I thought that most people would pick that. Turns out that was one of the lowest. So I will do some videos on that, but I'm not going to pour, hours and hours and hours into something that most people don't want, according to my survey. So I am going to really focus on this piece here, how to start your own side hustle. Now, this is probably because we are in the midst of the Great Resignation. We are seeing people leave their jobs. There are a lot of teachers who are leaving the profession. So, I'm going to be here for you when you enter the profession with your certification journey, and I'm going to be here for you when you decide to leave that profession, if you decide to do that. So, or if you just want to do something on the side. But this is how I collected my data. Now, this is quantitative data. This is numbers. Numbers don't tell you everything. Remember, we want to collect both quantitative and qualitative data. So I did have a piece in the survey for an open response. And in this, I took all of the responses and I kind of triangulated the data. If you are a PhD student or an EDD student, you know that you have to do that when you're working with qualitative data. You have to find trends and things like that in responses. But I had over like 100, written responses that I went through. And so that helped inform my decision on what goals I was going to make for myself for the first quarter of the year. Now, do I have a larger goal for the whole year? Well, yes, of course. I'd like to increase sales. I'd like to grow my YouTube channel. But I want to be more specific to this one goal so that it is attainable, because it is something I've wanted to do for a long time. Now, let's take a look at what that might look like in your classroom. So I'm sure your principal is pushing SMART goals, your district or your state. SMART goals has been like a thing for a long, long time, especially when we're trying to help students achieve on the state assessments and those types of things. And so SMART goals are your reality if you are a teacher in K-12 public education. So here's an example of that. Specific, I will help my students increase their reading scores by 5%. Measurable, I will use formative and summative data from iReady, classroom assessments, and fluency reads. And you might want to put in here even more specificity. You may want to say weekly formative assessments or weekly iReady, data collection or something like that. Attainable, together we will strive for a 5% increase. Now, 5% is pretty attainable. But to move a group of kids 5%, it's also a challenge. So don't poo-poo the 5%. A lot of people are like, oh, I want 20% or I want 50%. That's great. It's good to have, big goals. But think about this, moving an entire class of students up 5% where they were before. That's a pretty big goal. It's definitely attainable. But let's say you're working with students with learning disabilities or who struggle in reading, that may just be 2% or 3%. So really look at your data and see where your students are before you just throw out, some percentage, and make sure it's attainable, but also make sure it's a challenge too. You don't want to set the bar too low. And then relevant. After collecting data, so this is a data-driven decision, there are areas in fluency and vocabulary where my students can improve. So we are zeroing in on that relevance. The relevance might also be that, it's part of your professional development plan with your PLC, or your principal is pushing this, or the district is making you do it. Whatever it is, you can put that in the relevant area. And then time-based, I will do this by March 2022, which is right before the time where the kids take the standardized reading assessment that everybody focuses on so much. And this will help your students maybe do better on that. But we're not just business leaders or business owners, and we're not just teachers, right? We're people. And so maybe we have some goals, some personal goals for ourselves that we want to achieve. So I recommend applying the SMART method to that too. So here's an example of that. Specific. I will take at least 30 minutes each day to exercise, walk, run, lift, or a combo of any one of more of those. Now, 30 minutes. Some of us are really busy, right? You're teachers and your mothers or fathers, and you're coming home and it's like crazy and you're having a hard time finding that time to get out and get some fresh air, clear your mind, get your heart rate up. So maybe this is something you really want to do. Notice the specificity, at least 30 minutes each day. Now, it doesn't mean you can't go over. You could do an hour some days, 45 minutes some days, but at least 30 minutes per day. And that's a really good goal, you know? It's certainly measurable. We will use our Fitbit or iWatch to measure the progress. I'm always closing my rings on my watch. It's like an obsession I have. I'm sure those of you who have an iWatch do the same thing. If you have like one dangling ring, you're like walking around the house to try to get that ring closed. So it's definitely measurable. You can use your Fitbit, iWatch, or any other kind of wearables that we're doing now to measure your progress. Attainable. You can carve out at least 30 minutes a day for yourself. I'm going to tell you that. I'm going to give you some advice, unsolicited advice. Carve out 30 minutes a day for yourself, even if it's just to walk. You know, you don't have to go and like do a P90X workout, but you know, just to get out and walk and move your body and take some time for yourself is really important. So you can attain this. You can do at least 30 minutes a day. Relevant. Well, why? Why am I doing this? Well, this will help me with my mental and physical health, right? Yeah, we all want to lose weight, I guess. You know, oh, we want to we all feel guilty about the amount of cake we ate over Christmas holiday or mashed potatoes we had or carbs or whatever. But really, let's think about the real relevance here. It's going to help me mentally and physically to get out and move my body every day. And so that's the important part. Why am I doing this? And then time-based, maybe you'll check in each week to see if you're meeting the goal. Again, if you're doing a wearable, you know, an iWatch or a Fitbit, it's checking you every day, every minute of every day. So it's definitely time-based. And maybe at the end of the week, you can celebrate your success with a little chocolate cake or like, you know, some popcorn or whatever you want. Because it's important to reward ourselves when we meet our goals. So that's an example of one in which you can use for a specific goal for your own personal needs. All right. Now let's take a look at what it might look like for business. So maybe you're a business owner and you want to draft better goals for your company. And so definitely use the SMART method for that. So we have specific, I will increase sales of my online products by 10%. So again, specific, online products, 10%. I didn't just say I'm going to increase sales this year or I'm going to have a better first quarter than I did last year. That's too general. Let's get into the nitty gritty here. I will increase sales of my online products by 10%. I will use Shopify data or PayPal data to measure this. Obviously, if you're a business owner, you're using one or more of those things if you're selling online products. So definitely measurable, very easy. There's all kinds of metrics on there. Attainable. Well, can you do this? 10% is a jump, you know, can you do this? Well, we have several new courses that we can advertise on Facebook and Google Ads. So to get to this 10% here, I have some new courses and I'm going to, you know, focus on some Facebook and Google Ads here. And that's going to help me attain that goal. And then relevance. Well, why? Yeah, of course, everybody wants to make more money, but what's the real reason why we're trying to do this? Increasing sales will allow us to hire new people, buy new equipment, etc. So remind yourself as to why you're doing this. If it's just to make more money, it's like, yeah, of course. I mean, everybody wants more money, but what are we really trying to do here? We're trying to grow. Maybe we want to start, you know, another branch somewhere. We want to hire a new assistant or something like that. And increasing by 10% will allow us to do that. And then time-based, we're doing this in Q1, so January through March. So again, a SMART goal for business. That will help you out if you are starting your company or if you're trying to increase sales. Now, let me just show you one reason why I even made this video for SMART goals. So remember, I'm always talking about being data driven, right? So before I decided what I was going to film for this week, I did a little keyword search, and you can see here I have some software called SpyFood. They didn't sponsor this video or anything. I just really like their interface and their metrics. And I went in and typed goals because I knew it was the new year and everybody's kind of thinking about goals. But then I was like, well, they're teachers. They're probably going to hear a lot about SMART goals. Let's see what the keyword search analysis is on that. And you can see just in the monthly volume, 119,000 people put in the term SMART goals. And then there are all these other words here. What is a SMART goal? What are SMART goals? You can see 7,600. So there's a market for this kind of information, right? So that's why I'm doing this video. I also wanted to share with you some of my goals, but before I go out and make, a 20-minute video and spend all this time doing my makeup and my hair and doing all this extra stuff, I'm going to figure out if it's worth the time, if people are going to want to listen to me talk about this. And this is another way in which you can collect data. So the reason why I'm showing you that is because data collection is so important, whether it's survey data, you can survey your students to figure out what kind of goals you guys want to build together. It can be assessment data, numbers, sales data, numbers, measuring one product against another. It can be nutritional data, how many of your macros you ate that day and all that. I don't do that anymore. I used to do that. It drove me crazy. But if you're one of the macro counters, you're collecting data in that way. Maybe it's steps counted, seeing your incremental endurance going up. So that's great. Any kind of data you can collect to make decisions is really important. You don't have to be, a PhD researcher in order to analyze data and make smart decisions when developing your SMART goals. All right, so I hope that helped you today. Hopefully you can use that either for yourself or in your classroom or your business. And if you're new to this channel, please click the subscribe button. And if you have been here a while, thank you so much for coming back and reviewing my content. Don't forget, in the description below, there will be a link to sign up for my newsletter. I share exclusive content in that newsletter, so you're definitely going to want to check that out. And in the link below, you will also see a template so that you can develop your own SMART goal. So hopefully that will help you in achieving what you want to do this year. Thank you so much for watching and have an awesome day.